Deep within the rain-soaked forests of Oregon, beneath a violent storm that smothered sound and sight alike, a Navy SEAL on leave witnessed something that should never happen. 3 sheriff's deputies, believing the wilderness concealed their actions, were in the process of burying a woman alive. They assumed isolation was protection. They were mistaken. Elias Thorne stood watching, his retired German shepherd, Kaiser, rigid at his side. Elias did not consider calling in the crime. He made a different decision altogether. He would stop an execution. The Pacific Northwest rain didn't simply fall. It assaulted the ground, turning soil and pine needles into a thick, sucking mire. Blackwood Ridge, normally quiet under such weather, was empty of people. For Elias, the storm was background noise. He was built for endurance, not comfort, 6'4", hardened by years of combat and impossible terrain. Silence was what he sought in the woods, hoping to still the echoes left behind by war. Tonight, however, the forest refused to remain quiet. Kaiser sensed it first. The dog's ears rotated forward, body tense, a deep vibration forming in his chest. Elias froze, instincts sharpening. With a whisper, he sent Kaiser ahead. They moved as one, gliding through brush and shadow. At the crest of a ridge, artificial light tore through the darkness. Below them, in a clearing, a police cruiser idled. Headlights illuminated 3 uniformed men and a pit already dug deep into the earth. 2 younger deputies shoveled nervously while their superior, Deputy Deke, watched with thinly veiled impatience. Deke barked orders, complaining about the rain and his boots. Nearby lay what looked like a bundle of tarps, until it moved. Deke kicked it. A weak groan followed. The bundle was a woman, battered, bound, and barely conscious. Her red hair was caked with mud and blood. Her body trembled violently. Deke ordered her thrown into the grave. The younger officers hesitated only briefly before obeying. That was the moment Elias acted. He gave Kaiser the silent command. The dog launched forward, crashing into one deputy with crushing force. Elias followed instantly, moving with lethal precision. In seconds, chaos erupted. One man fell screaming beneath Kaiser. Another collapsed under Elias's blows. Deke barely freed his weapon before Elias disarmed him and dropped him into the mud. The fight ended almost as quickly as it began. Rain filled the silence. Elias cut the woman's restraints and lifted her effortlessly into his arms. He warned the broken deputies not to move. Then, with Kaiser guarding their retreat, Elias vanished into the forest, carrying the woman away from an open grave and into the storm. The climb into the mountains was brutal. Mud clutched at Elias's boots while branches lashed at his face. Clara Vance, though Elias didn't yet know her name, remained unconscious in his arms. He moved without slowing, breath steady, focus absolute. Kaiser scouted ahead, pausing often to listen. The storm erased their trail, buying them precious time. Their destination was an old hunting cabin built decades earlier by Elias's grandfather. Forgotten by maps and officials, it sat hidden near Ironwood Peak. They reached it as rain turned to sleet. Elias forced the door open and carried Clara inside. The cabin smelled of dust, pine resin, and old smoke. Kaiser took position at the entrance while Elias secured the shutters and deadbolt. By lantern light, the damage became clear. Clara was hypothermic, her skin pale and cold. Elias worked quickly but gently, cutting away wet clothing and wrapping her in thick wool blankets pulled from an old cedar chest. He built a fire and opened his medical kit. Broken ribs. Severe bruising. A deep cut on her scalp. He cleaned and stitched the wound with steady hands, balancing the dual nature of his life, violence and healing housed in the same body. As the hours passed, the storm howled outside while warmth slowly returned to the cabin. Clara murmured in her sleep, whispering about a card they couldn't take. Elias noted it but focused on keeping her alive. Near dawn, Clara woke suddenly, panic flooding her. She lashed out, grabbing a shard of stone and screaming for him to stay back. Elias didn't advance. He spoke calmly, hands visible, voice steady. Kaiser approached instead, resting his massive head beside her leg. The dog gently licked her trembling hand. The fear broke. Clara dropped the stone and began to cry. She finally saw Elias, not as a threat but as her rescuer. He told her simply that they had gotten her out. She wept, Kaiser grounding her back to reality. Later, as the fire dimmed to embers, Clara explained everything. She was an investigative journalist tracking a synthetic opioid network. Every lead pointed back to Blackwood Ridge, and to Sheriff Broderick Kane himself. Kane wasn't just corrupt, he owned the system. Judges, politicians, and deputies were all on his payroll. The evidence was hidden on a memory card concealed in her boot. Elias retrieved the card and pocketed it. They now had a target, and a reason Kane would hunt them relentlessly. That hunt began immediately. At the sheriff's office, Kane issued a false narrative. Elias Thorne was a dangerous, unstable fugitive who had attacked officers and kidnapped a journalist. A manhunt was ordered. Thermal drones deployed. Shoot to kill authorization given. Knowing the cabin would soon be compromised, Elias moved Clara into the wilderness. When a drone swept overhead, he dragged her into a freezing creek bank and covered them all, including Kaiser, in thick mud to mask their heat signatures. Deputies passed within yards, unaware they were standing over living graves. Once the drone departed, Elias knew the game had changed. They weren't searching anymore. They were hunting. Cold and exhaustion set in as they pushed north. Clara's injuries worsened, but she refused to stop. Elias planned to reach an abandoned fire watchtower where he could boost a signal past Kane's jammers. Along the way, Kaiser detected something wrong. Beneath a layer of leaves lay a freshly set bear trap. Kane's men weren't just pursuing them, they were laying lethal traps. The realization hardened Elias's resolve and fueled Clara's determination. With Kaiser's guidance, they navigated the deadly terrain and eventually reached the tower. The structure stood alone against the gray sky, weathered but intact. Elias forced entry and prepared to send a message that would reach beyond Kane's control. The mountain had become a battlefield, but the truth was finally within striking distance. Kane had power, money and manpower, but Elias Thorne had skill, loyalty, and the evidence needed to burn the entire rotten system down. The hunt was far from over. But for the first time, Kane wasn't the only one watching the mountain.